Okay, so be sure you're seated comfortably and that you're seated upright but without any strain. And for a few moments, I would like you to just attend to your breathing and just allow yourself to easily breathe in and out. And as you breathe, try to create an evenness in your breathing so that the inhale and the exhale are of equal length. And notice how the inner life quiets down through this evenness of breathing. And now gently move your attention away from your breathing and draw your focus to your heart chakra. And as you focus there, imagine that a quality of Christ-like love is beginning to well up within your heart. A soft and expansive feel. And imagine that that quality of love is projecting outward into the field, into this room, touching everyone with a stream of love. Heart to heart. Christ to Christ. And now gently move your attention to your crown chakra, just above the head. Here is where the will of the soul makes entrance into our lives. So imagine that a downflow of will is penetrating through your crown chakra. Providing you a sense of centered beingness. It's as if you are on a beam of steel. And now move your attention to your ajna center, the point between the eyebrows. And imagine that you, the self, are seated there. And as you focus there, or focus your sense of self there, for a moment reflect on the heart and the crown. And see if you can try to hold that softness of love and the strength of will. Can you feel it held together at the same time? And now I'd like you to begin to draw yourself inward. Feel yourself moving into a deeper, deeper, quieter place. Moving deep into the quietness of beingness, where there is a feeling of expanse. And as you hold yourself in this deep and expansive place, silently chant the Om from that place. And again, take note of the broad, expansive feel when at that place. And now while you hold that broad field, begin to establish a ring pass knot right at the center of your beingness. Begin to build a sense of will as you build this ring pass knot. And as you increase the intensity of that will, simultaneously try to hold the softness of expansive love. And now right at the center of the ring pass knot, chant silently the mantram of your ray. And then thrust yourself with will as deep as you can, and visualize the color of the ray as a trail of light leading into that deep place. Project now. And now holding yourself in two places. One deep within at the point of tension, and the other, the place where you held the ring pass knot. Hold that polarization, and for a few minutes remain as still as you can and receptive. Be still. And now slowly refocus yourself at the level of the soul and reconnect yourself with that feeling of broad expansiveness. And trust that an intuitive seed has precipitated and subtly entered into the higher reaches of your mind. And that in time it will germinate into a fully realized insight having to do with your work and purpose in this life. And as we refocus ourselves, Let us close this meditation by together chanting the Om 3 times softly. Okay. Okay, so are there any questions or comments on that process? Just a couple things to kind of round it out for you is that this is your first attempt at this. And so just be very patient. As I say, perfection of it takes a few lifetimes. So, but also realize that this is how the system works, because the ashram speaks in formless intuitions and very, very subtle. And it tries to seed your causal body, which is your higher consciousness, with intuitive germ, or a seed that in time will begin to grow and manifest and arrive at a realized insight. That's how the ashram speaks to you. It speaks in faint intuitive whispers. And the more aligned we can stay with the point of tension, the more that precipitation can be done correctly. And this is the basis of the whole magical process of what is magic. And magic has a lot to do with the so-called art of thought form building. And it begins with this process of deep alignment with will and love. The other thing to keep in mind is that this type of meditation, because it's intentional meditation, it's designed so that you can go in with specific questions. In fact, let's say I'm going to use an example. Say your service work is, I don't know, let's say you're a psychotherapist, and that's your calling. And you have a particular client that is offering some challenges of how to be a helpful person in this therapeutic relationship. You may want deeper insight in terms of how to move forward in that way. So what you do is and we didn't include this in this meditation, but I just want to show you this is an adaptation of it. You can begin by actually not meditating at all, but really start to think about that person. Begin to really ponder that person and the issues, and allow your mind to build thought forms that very much relate to that person and the issue. Now, in ancient occultism, it's realized that thoughts are made up of mental substance, intelligent mental substance. It's called the elementals. And when you think about something with intention, you're literally charging mental substance with a theme of inquiry. In this case, an inquiry around a psychological intervention. Okay? Then, after you've really worked your thoughts around that, that's when you go into the quiet, expansive place and be very still. That's when you and not think about it anymore, but then begin the process of the ring pass knot and the projection, all of that. Because what's happening is, when you go and do that, this is suggesting that it puts the mind into a condition of receptivity along that subject. Because this is one of the variables between mystical meditation and occult meditation. It's going in with intention for some specific piece of understanding that's needed. And what will happen is the ashram and the intuition will precipitate, and it will tend to nest insights into the mental field of inquiry that you still have charged particles of mind around that theme. As opposed to the kind of meditation that is just, let's go in and drift and just see what happens, it happens. Occult meditation is much more intentional. It presupposes that you've actually developed over many incarnations that mystical, expansive love thing. But now it's realizing that your instruments, your causal body, that's your soul body, your mental body, your emotional body, your whole life is a tool. It's a tool used to make a difference in the world some way. And now it's about a more deliberate understanding of how to use that tool and how to engage that tool rightly with the ashram and the greater life that you're a representative of, with intention and with profound Christ-like love at the same time. So that's the root principle behind esoteric philosophy in terms of creativity, in terms of meditation, in terms of service. Okay? Okay. Play with it. Play with it, yeah. You know, the Tibetan used to have, he had 24 disciples he worked with for about 20 years. And he would actually have people do these sorts of meditations, but want it to develop insight, and would use a single word and have you meditate on a single word. And he would do it for, say, 6 months every day. I mean, if that doesn't drive your lower self crazy, I don't know what will. You know, straitjacket time. But the idea is that it's the discipline of the mind, so that because it's just a tool. We want to use the mind and not be used by the mind. We want to use our emotional nature and not be used by our emotions. We want to use our physical body and not be used by it. That's the goal. That's the goal. That's what is meant by the practical mystic. Okay? Okay, we can be mystical. We can be aligned with the all. That's shouldn't be that difficult. We already have that. We've had 2,000 years of Pisces helping us do that. You know? And now it's about, okay, we got that piece down. Now, what are you going to do? What are you going to do to make a difference in the world? And always remember this, and another key point to keep in mind is, when you think about your service in the world, when you think about what you're going to do, it's really important to discern the difference between a personality agenda and a soul agenda. And just realize this, the two parts of you, personality and soul, will measure how well they're doing in terms of service or doing something in the world. They will measure using different measures. You see, the personality will always measure its work using quantitative measures. The soul will always use qualitative measures. The personality always says how much, how many, how often. The soul doesn't say that. The soul says how well. The soul says how can it bring the fullness of its wisdom and love into manifestation and expression? It's not measuring in numbers, it's measuring in qualitative effect. You see? So when you think about, that's why don't get caught up in thinking, okay, I'll tell you a true story. I do a lot of, I'm an esoteric astrologer as well as a teacher of the whole philosophy. And so I see a lot of people privately as one-on-one stuff. And I can't tell you how many times people have come to me and wanted me to give them some insight into an esoteric view of their charts. And there's been so many times when people will say, I'm looking for understanding my soul's purpose, and I'm hoping you can help me see that purpose in the chart. And it's true, the chart is going to provide some clues. I want to share that with you next. But what they'll say is this, sometimes they say, I don't know what my purpose is, but I know it's going to be big. I know it's big. And I have to tactfully say, yeah, you do have a purpose. And there's no doubt about that. But just realize that the part of you that's thinking about big is your personality adding to the equation. You see? That's the little personality ego creeping in there. We all know about that too. So, okay. Any questions on that? You all okay with that?